diamond manager, as one of the top 3 FBOs in the world in forever, and an exec GLT member. However, I'm just an FBO like everybody in this room. You know, life wasn't always as it is today. And I want to take you, if I can, on a bit of a journey. It was 1992. I was a single mum of 2 amazing little boys. And I was struggling. I was struggling financially. I was struggling physically. I was struggling mentally. And I was doing every single thing I could to keep a roof over our heads and the bailiffs from knocking on the door. That night, I'd been working. I'd been working in the lambing sheds because the time that I could earn the most money was when everybody else was sleeping. I got time and a half if I worked in the lambing sheds, delivering the babies, when everybody else was sleeping. And I remember on that cold, wet January morning, it was 5:30 a.m. I was cold, I was tired. It had been a long night with no time out. But I had to get back to the little tiny house that I rented on the farm estate to get the boys up, to get them off to school. You have to do what you have to do. And those were tough times. I remember getting them up, getting them dressed, getting them off to school, and coming home thinking, I just need an hour to myself. I just need an hour to catch my breath before I go out and sort the horses out. I was sat in the kitchen, and all of a sudden the postman came, and the letters dropped on the mat. And I can quite clearly, as if it were yesterday, remember thinking, I don't want to pick those up. And some of you may be able to relate to this. But I did pick them up. And it wasn't pleasant. The first envelope had an electricity bill for about £80. I didn't have £80. The second was the tax for the car. I looked outside of the car and thought, it's not even worth taxing. And some of you maybe can relate to that. The third one was a letter from my landlord. And as I opened it, my heart sank, because he told me he was raising the rent by £150 a month. And I looked around at the house and I thought, it's not even worth what I'm paying for it now. But it was the fourth one that was to define, I guess, my future from that point on. The fourth one was a letter from the school. And that was a letter saying to me that there was a school trip coming up and the boys were being invited to attend. And it was £60 per child. And I didn't have that money. And my 2 little boys were the only 2 little boys that didn't go on that school trip. And at that moment, I remember quite clearly hanging my head in my hands and thinking, something has to change. Now, I know many people in this room have had their moments of quiet desperation. Some of you may have had those moments months ago, years ago, and some of you may be going through them right now. But what I'm about to share with you will determine whether you stay in that moment or whether you do what I did and say, something has to change. And if something is going to change, I have to change. Now, it's not always just that simple, saying I have to change, and if I change, everything's going to be hunky-dory. I think there's a process that we all have to go through to enable change to define us. And I began to realise that there had to be a better way. Now, don't get me wrong. Once a farmer, always a farmer. And I like nothing better than getting on a horse and being out in the big outdoors with the wind blowing through my hair and the sense of freedom. But I want to do that at my cost, not at somebody else's. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing I love more than popping down to my friends who are farmers at lambing time and getting stuck in for a couple of hours. But that's my choice. Because I want to, not because I have to. But that moment, when those letters dropped on the doormat, I realised that something had to change. I could not carry on living a life of quiet desperation, just getting by. It wasn't good enough. And I could carry on making excuses and kidding myself that the way I was living was okay, because it wasn't. So I started looking at other options. I looked at going to study, to re-qualify, and something I always wanted to do back in those days was become a vet. I did a lot of my own animal husbandry, and I was pretty good at it. But when I looked into that course, that was not an option. I didn't have the qualifications from school. Whilst I was very practical, I wasn't particularly the brightest one on the block at school when it came to the A-levels required to even step inside and apply to be a vet. I looked at franchising, and I thought, oh my goodness, this is a soulless way to make a living and required a huge amount of money. I looked at traditional businesses, and I began to think about all the ways that I could be the next millionaire entrepreneur with an invention or a good idea. And I had one good idea, but it never really bore fruition because I didn't have the money to see it through from concept to end product. So I almost resigned myself to more of the same. And not only people in this room right now who may be feeling that, but you know people who are in that stage in their lives right now. And as a FBO, our job is to help people recognize that they're at that point in their lives where they need to make some decisions. And you do that through your own personal experience in Forever, your own personal stories, your own personal successes, no matter how small they are. I hear many people say to me, but Jayne, I can't go and talk to so-and-so because I'm not yet making $3,000 a month. This is not about what you're doing. It's about the opportunity you offer to other people. And if anybody ever tries to judge the opportunity based on where you're at right now, then you need to encourage them to look at the opportunity for them and not based on where you're going. Isn't it interesting that once you make a decision, a heartfelt decision, Not something that's a throwaway decision, a throwaway comment. But once you make a decision that something is going to happen, how the universe realigns itself and brings opportunity and people into your life that can help you with the choices you have to make. I never used to believe all that stuff. I did think it was a little bit hypey and a little bit weird, a little bit American. But it is interesting that once you decide, once you plant something in here, the universe does rearrange itself for you, as long as it's serious. 2 good things happened. I met John. How lucky can one man get? And together, we met forever. Well, forever found us. We had that phone call. How many people in this room can remember the moment they had someone give them a call? How many people can remember that? It's incredible. That call was to change your life. You didn't know it at the time, but it was a call, communication that was to change your life. And so we did our due diligence. We got our questions answered. We looked at the marketing model. We met with the MD. We spent time with our sponsor. And by time we registered with Forever, our mindset was, we are joining Forever to be successful. We are not joining to give it a go. We are not joining to see if it will work. We are joining to be successful. And I truly believe that the way you embrace your journey with Forever, the thought process that you put behind your decisions, I truly believe that they will dictate the way that your journey unfolds. Because what's really interesting is self-talk. What's really interesting is the way we talk to ourselves in our heads. And don't think you don't do it, because we all do. Every single one of us has self-talk going on at all times. For the crazy ones, they answer the self-talk. However, self-talk, we need to be mindful of our mindset the day that we say, this is the day I start my journey with Forever. We realized on day one that when this journey was beginning, that we had to take complete responsibility for our actions on a daily basis. If it is to be, it's up to me. Yes, of course, there are many people around us. Well, there weren't then, actually. Back in 1993, there was nobody around us. I mean, it was just John and myself, a box of products and a flip chart. No video, no Facebook, no mobile phones. Well, they were, but they were like bricks. You needed someone to carry it for you. Now, I say this because I think sometimes people overcomplicate the process. And all we did as the journey began was to hold ourselves accountable to the activities we needed to focus on every single day. And it was really simple. Show the product, show the business, 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 show the product, show the business. Most people just don't do enough. You've got to do it with a passion, with an intensity, with a sense of urgency. And I'm going to share with you some reasons why you need to adopt that kind of thought process in a minute. I learned very quickly that I had to change my own thinking. You see, all of the skills and the talent that I had in being a farmer, and I wasn't just any old farmer, I was a very good farmer, but all the skills and the talents I had in being a farmer were great in that arena, but I had to modify them somewhat I had to take the good stuff with me and leave the bad stuff behind, because if you want to be successful in a new industry, you've got to embrace some new ideas, some new skills in order to move forward. So I learned very quickly that I had to, first of all, change my thought process to the way I earned an income. Now, I want to talk to you just for a minute about our thought process in relationship to money. And for most people, I would say, they go to school, they get an education, they either go to university or they go to college, or they take on an apprenticeship, or like myself, I was born into farming. But you have a job mentality. And my job mentality was that I limited my way of life based on what somebody else was prepared to pay me. And in actual fact, we begin to believe we're only worthy of that amount of money. And interesting, there's been some studies on this about how people perceive adverts for jobs. And I think I fell into this trap so neatly that I realised it was true. I was probably making around about, before I went through my nasty divorce, I was making probably about 23,000 a year. That's about 80 to 100 hours a week. And what happens is we become conditioned to believing that's what we're worth. And if all of you in this room right now think about what you're paid in a job, or have been paid in a job, or still are if you're in an employed situation, and we believe within a few £1,000 that's what we're worth, because we're conditioned to believe that. And research shows us that if somebody placed an advert in your local paper, and that advert was showing you potentially that you could make double what you're on at the moment, you are not likely to apply for it, because you don't believe you're worthy of the income they're saying you can have. It's fascinating. So therefore, I had to change my thinking when I came across network marketing. Because here's the biggest problem, challenge, and sometimes you don't even know it's in your mind, is you've seen it today, big checks. You've seen people going through the marketing plan. You're around people that are making 5, 10, 15, 20,000 plus a month. And you aspire to that. But somewhere deep down, there is a little tiny bit of self-talk that says, am I worthy? And I know categorically that many people in this room have had that thought. Am I worthy of that money? So I had to change my thinking from being employed to running my own business. I had to stop thinking about everything I couldn't have and start thinking about the things I could have as I began to develop within the opportunity of forever. And I have to share a little story with you. One of the very first people I met in Forever was a girl called Debbie Lloyd. And I was so impressed by Debbie. You see, Debbie had already been involved in network marketing with another company for some years. So her thinking had already been changed. She knew the potential of network marketing. She knew the potential of the marketing model. And when I was around her, she said, Jayne, one of my first goals is to make 20,000 a month. And I remember saying to John, she wants to make 20,000 a month? And I know there will be people in this room right now who will be going, yeah, I'm with you on that, Jayne. It sounds amazing and it's for other people, but can I do it? You don't have to put your hands up, but I know some of you are saying 20,000 a month. And Debbie won't know this, but at the time I used to watch the way she worked. I used to watch the way she integrated with people. I used to watch the way she would do phone sessions and trainings, and I thought, she can do it, I can do it. Now what that means is you need to look for your role models. And your role models need to be people who are walking the walk, talking the talk, and achieving in this company. Because there's no point having a role model that hasn't got what you don't want. You know why? Because they'll never stretch you. They'll never grow you. They'll never tell you what you need to hear as opposed to what you want to hear. So, in changing my thinking, I had to embrace this concept. I am an entrepreneur. I'm an entrepreneur. And when you first start off in network marketing within this industry, you go, I'm an entrepreneur. And you say it and you don't really believe it. Because we see entrepreneurs on the telly, we see the entrepreneurs, don't we? The dragons in Dragon's Den. And what do we immediately do? Oh, we can never have the kind of lifestyle they have. Yes, you can. Everybody has the chance within our industry, within this company, to have a true entrepreneurial spirit empowered. So again, I had to adapt to being an entrepreneur. And I had to have a real deep down passion for what I was doing. And this passion overrides any fears, any challenges, any thoughts that may stop you from standing tall, being proud of who you are and what you represent, being proud of our products, being proud of our company, being proud of our industry. And interestingly, when you connect with the entrepreneurial spirit in alignment with forever, you get a sparkle in your eyes. You get a smile on your face. You stand tall. It doesn't matter what anybody throws at you because you're ready for it. Your belief is unwaverable. No one can tell you this won't work. I learned that being an entrepreneur meant I had to have a bigger vision. And Debbie, wherever you are, I want to say thank you, because in those early days, your vision became my vision. Because we were so brand new in the industry, I hadn't met anybody in networking that was making $20,000 a month. You guys are so lucky. You're surrounded by success in forever. You don't need to worry about your belief. Belief is all around you. But I tell you what you do need to do. You need to believe in other people while they're working on believing in themselves. I learned I needed to be flexible and open-minded. I learned that in an employee situation, life is rigid. You will be at work at 8 o'clock in the morning. You will take a coffee break at 10:30. You will take a lunch break, more often than not now, at your desk at 1 o'clock. You can leave at 5 o'clock or 5:30. Oh, and by the way, in today's market, you'll have 2 hours of work to take home with you. Now listen, I'm not knocking a job. I've had one. But what I am saying, there is a better way. There is a better way. And you are so privileged to be here right now, especially the new people who have only been maybe in less than 90 days. You are so lucky. Yeah, I don't use the word lucky very often, but you are so lucky, so privileged to have found this as your home to become an entrepreneurial spirit. So, you need to let go of the job mentality. It will not serve you well. This is your business. This is your life. This is your chance. You only ever get one chance like this in a lifetime. Do not waste it with small thinking. You need to be disciplined. And interestingly, when you are employed, someone will always discipline you. They will think for you, tell you what you need to do when you need to do it. You'll have your holiday when it fits in with the schedule of every other person in that office, that building, that community. And sometimes when people get involved in network marketing, there is a freedom. You decide when you want to work, you decide who you're going to talk to, you decide your meetings and trainings, you decide that you have to employ yourself. In other words, you have to hold yourself accountable. I learned very quickly to take responsibility for my own actions. If something didn't happen, if I didn't have a win, if I didn't get a result, what was I going to do about it? You see, an entrepreneur never expects anybody else to take responsibility for their actions. An entrepreneur will say, that didn't work, how can I do it better next time? They are constantly working on their ability to be the best they can be, to bring the best game to the platform. And I had to learn that. But I was very fortunate to be brought up in a family whereby I was always encouraged to bring my best game to the table. There is no point being average. Average is as close to the bottom as it is to the top. And every single one of us has a seed of greatness within them. Every one of us. And never doubt that. I had to be prepared to let go of the word of procrastination. I was quite good at putting things off. Putting them off because of a fear of rejection, a fear of failure, a fear of ridicule, a fear of other people's opinions. It's very easy to be busy and forever thinking about it all day. But actually when the bottom line has to be accounted for, what did you actually do? And we all need to understand that an entrepreneur never wastes time. An entrepreneur knows that you cannot buy time. No matter how much money you have in the world, we have the same 24 hours a day. We have to decide how well we are going to use that 24 hours in a day. I had to develop strong people skills. Now, farming can be quite quiet at times. It's normally you and a load of horses or a load of sheep, and very often it can be quite quiet and quite insular. So I had to learn to expand my communication abilities. If someone had ever said to me, Jayne, you will be speaking in front of, I think my largest audience was around about 30,000. If anybody had said that I would be speaking on a generic stage, just going to do a bit of name dropping here, guys, with Anthony Robbins and Sir Richard Branson, I would never ever believe them. But I recognized on day one that I had to develop my ability to become a people person, to understand that our industry is about empowering people, nurturing people, believing in people, sometimes saying no to people and putting them back on track. I had to learn all that, but I think that some of that maybe was already inside me. It's just I never realized it until I was in this industry. I had to understand that as an entrepreneur, success is based on your own drive and ambition. This is a really key point. Success is based on your own drive and ambition. It's all down to how bad you want it. And for me, let me tell you, I wanted it real bad. Like really, really, really bad. When I plucked up the courage after many years of an unhappy marriage, when I left my husband finally with 2 little boys, 2 suitcases, a car and nothing, he said to me, I have no respect for you and you'll never amount to anything. now. We can laugh at that now. And it took me 10 years to be able to even say that to anybody, let alone voice it in an environment like this. And here's the thing, if I had believed him, which I did for 18 months, I believed I was worth nothing. I believed I could never achieve anything, which was crazy because I was always a high achiever in whatever I put my mind to. But I tell you something, when I got involved in Forever, as my confidence began to grow, I wanted it real bad. And in the back of my mind was always what he said to me when I left him. And I'll never forget, ever, and many of you have heard this before, but the new people in the room maybe haven't. One of my goals was to put my kids in private education, which I did within 1 year of joining Forever. But the second goal was to earn more in a month than he earned in a year. And I can remember the day that that check landed on the floor. When I opened it up and I went, holy cow, I've done it. I had a happy dance around the kitchen. We have lots of happy dancing in our house. When something happens, we have music, we play it loud, we do a happy dance around the kitchen. I happy dance, let me tell you. I rang up my lawyer and I said, I've done it. Let's ram it down his throat. Let's show them. Let me show him. Sadly, I wasn't to have my moment of glory because she said, Jayne, whoa, hold on. I said, what? She said, best he doesn't know. Otherwise, he might come to you and start taking it off you. And I said, over my dead body. Never underestimate the power that you have inside of you to achieve greatness. Never underestimate it. But you need to find what your driving force is. You need to connect with your ambition, whatever it may be. And it's different for all of us, but you need to have that connection, because without it, you'll never have your moment. And your moment may not be like mine, but you will have a moment where you wanted to prove yourself to somebody. Maybe somebody you love in a relationship has said, oh, you'll never do that. We all have a driving ambition to prove somebody wrong, and that's an entrepreneurial spirit. We need to plan, and we need to plan, and we need to plan, and we need to plan. You leave nothing to chance on the road to success. Nothing. You leave no stone unturned. You're an entrepreneur. You don't just do the basics, you do more. You don't do 2 calls a day, you do 5. You don't do 5 one-to-ones in a week, you do 10. Test yourself, push yourself. Where can you go? You need to be willing to experience failure and understand how to channel it into success. This is really important. This is so important that it can make or break people. I want you to think about the times that you've been disappointed in life, in Forever, the times you've been frustrated, when things haven't happened. What do you do with that energy? Do you allow it to engulf you and destabilize you? Or are you big enough to take a step back and say, okay, that didn't work. It's time to move on. Time to try again. Time to brush myself off and have another go. Failure teaches us more than we ever know, but only if we know how to handle it. Let me tell you, on this journey to success in Forever, I have experienced a lot of challenging times, a lot of times when I failed to achieve a goal. And it would have been so easy on many an occasion to say, I'm done, this is just too tough. But you know what? Tough times never last, but tough people do. And if you have something inherently within you that has caused you to stumble on your journey, you're not achieving the success that you want right now, take a step back, strip it down. Have an honest approach in looking at what you're truly doing. Looking at every aspect of the business and asking yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, how good am I on each level? Because that's what I did. You asked John. I was my own best critique. I was the one that held me accountable. I was the one that every single time I did a phone call or did a one-to-one or did a meeting, I would take a minute and say, did I do a good job and where could I have done better? I was big enough to do that. And I believe that defines me, even now. Even now when I do a call or do a one-to-one, I still do those things, you know. Or I do a planning, or I'm sitting with somebody coaching. At the end of it, I'll take a moment and say, did I bring my best game to the table? Did I do right by them? I don't want regrets. I don't ever want to look back and think I failed someone. I want to know I gave it my best shot. And empower someone to be the best they could be. What they do with it is up to them. I want you to understand that an entrepreneur never ever considers the time. They're not in it part-time, they're not in it full-time. It becomes a way of life. That's the life of an entrepreneur, that's the mindset of an entrepreneur. It becomes a way of life. This is not a job. And when you switch from job mentality to entrepreneur mentality, what you'll find is that you'll start engaging with people much better, much quicker. You'll find that you'll build the business when you're on the go 24/7. It becomes natural. It becomes an extension of who you are. You'll never miss an opportunity to talk to people. You'll never miss an opportunity to share the product. You'll never miss an opportunity to engage with someone to say, hey, I might have something you might be interested in. Take a look. It might be for you, it might not, but if you don't look, you never know. In other words, an entrepreneur is on purpose, on point. They are focused. They understand that work comes before success, except in the dictionary. So we didn't count the hours. I never counted the hours. I did exactly what needed to be done. There are 3 parts to any day: morning, afternoon, and evening. And you need to make sure you're doing some kind of proactive activity in each one of those 3 areas of the day. But I never counted the hours. If I needed to book in a planning meeting, I booked it. If I needed to do a training, I did it. If I needed to run a home meeting, I did it. And yes, that was a bit tough occasionally on the kids. And my son is in the room today, and I don't think he turned out too badly as a result of me not being there every single night for him. As long as you explain to children that you're having 1 year of flat-out activity, you're building a foundation that's going to ultimately give them the most unbelievable life, they're on your side. Encourage your kids to be young entrepreneurs. Encourage them to have goals and values. Show them what the meaning of work ethic is through your own work ethic. Don't put off until tomorrow what can be done today. Always be prepared to do a little bit more. And recognize the simplicity of the business. This is my big focus, I guess, at the moment, is demystifying the simplicity of what we do. You get paid to become a phenomenal user of the product. Now, I always used to think that we were using a lot of product. And in the early days, that was tough because we didn't always have the pennies to invest in more product, but bit by bit, we disciplined ourselves that every time we placed an order, we would add more product to the order so we could try it. And I remember back in the day, and 1 or 2 of you in the room will remember this couple, there was a couple called Kevin and Lily Chan. These were the guys that had joined Forever before we did in the UK, and they were storming it. And I must admit, in my naivety in the early days, I thought to be successful, you had to recruit a load of Chinese people. Clearly you didn't, but that's what I thought. But anyway, I remember Lily Chan was unbelievable with the product. And I remember having a little training at our house and asking her if she would very kindly come and talk about the product. And she walked into my house, and there was about 20 people there, and she asked for some product that she needed to show very visual examples of how they worked, and I didn't have it. And there and then, in front of everybody, she literally said, what do you mean you don't have it? You don't have MPD. You don't have Arctic Sea. There was a product at the time called ProSet, which was like a styling product. You don't have ProSet. And there was a whole list of products I didn't have. And she just looked at me and shook her head. You know how that can make you feel about this big? I tell you something, from that day on, I can tell you we started using the product. And I know for a fact that most people in the UK don't use enough. You want to go to Japan, where they drink a litre of gel a day. So we use the product. We retail the product. We share the opportunity and sponsor people, and we coach them to do the same. And I urge each and every one of you to keep the process simple. Our industry of network marketing was designed many years ago, to be a process, a system that allowed people to create something quite special using a simple process. It was never designed to be a Mensa test, which is what it can be at times today. So keep it simple. And when you apply some of those points I've shared with you, not only will you see results coming, but we saw results coming. We went supervisor in 5 weeks and manager in 14 weeks. People say to me, how on earth did you get to manager in 14 weeks? I said, I was just ignorance on fire. I wasn't a slick professional networker. I was an enthusiastic distributor, we were called then, that had a big dream and a big goal, and just took advantage of an incredible marketing plan and an incredible product range. So make a plan to get to supervisor, because once you can become a supervisor, you can teach it. And if you can teach 5 people to become a supervisor, you've cracked manager. That's a really simple plan. So, my next sort of part of progress, if you like, was my thought process. I can do this. I can do this, and you know what? I'm going to take people with me. And it's really interesting if you look at the life of an FBO, and you need to consider these 3 points. You might want to write them down. When you work with a brand new FBO, they are completely dependent on you. This is a little bit like children, and there's lots of little ones in the room today. These little tiny tots, before they can even walk or feed themselves, are completely dependent on you for everything in their lives. And actually, in much shorter terms, so is a new FBO. They're completely dependent on you. Now, if you try and swamp them with too much too soon, they go, whoa, I can't do this. And suddenly they don't return your calls. They don't show up at meetings or trainings. They may use a bit of product, but you don't see them. And I know some of you in this room have experienced that. And I know that because I have. So understand that a brand new FBO is dependent to begin with. And as long as you can teach them the very simplistic approach of use the product, share the opportunity, and begin to teach others to do the same, you'll be okay. Now, the second phase is what we call interdependency. Now, interdependency is where an FBO has probably been with you for about 3 months, They know how to do a one-to-one, they can do a call, they can send a video, they know about a BP, they understand the importance of a success day. They probably still need a bit of help with planning, structuring, and the first steps to manager. But interdependency is brilliant, I love it. It's when they ring you up and say, yeah, I've done 3 one-to-ones today and I've got someone joining next week. Love it. You begin to feel this confidence in them. This is when you really need to empower them to step into their brilliance. And then they become completely independent. So they're dependent, interdependent, and then independent. And one of the things I learned very quickly is, when you can create independent, freestanding leaders, not only do you help someone design a life for them, but everything you want will come to be as well. This is a manager building business, but it all starts at ground root level. And if you don't have the process to help the completely dependent FBO become an interdependent FBO, to become an independent FBO, they'll fall and some of them won't get back up again. So I realized that I can do this, keep it simple, and I can take people with me. And what's really interesting is that we now have a business in over 40 countries with over 1 million FBOs. And I know that we have changed the lives through our own actions, our own decisions, our own choices, our own disciplines, our own activities, our own abilities. I know that that ripple effect has reached out around the world and has changed the lives of people I will never meet. And every single one of you in this room has that same ability to change the lives of people that you will never meet. And that's when you know you've built an awesome business. And ultimately, that's what keeps me going today. Just before I share a small video from Wrexham with you, I want to share something that was really surreal that happened to me this week. And some of you saw a Facebook post that I shared. If we can go on from that slide. We live on a beautiful estate. We've got 45, 50 acres in Monmouthshire. And we have a beautiful period farmhouse in the grounds. And we've developed the most amazing barn, which we're just having a big extension put on. And we let the land to a local sheep farmer, because even though I don't farm sheep anymore, I like to see them around me. And the other morning, I was absolutely exhausted. And I got up and I said to John, God, if I'd had a rifle, I would have shot a bloody sheep last night. He said, steady girl, what's going on? I said, well, obviously there's some mothers that have been separated from their young, and all night, all I've heard is like torture. Just this on, bleating, 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 bleating for the young wanting their mums. And I said, I'm going to have to go find them. I'll get the quad out and I'll go find them later, but I've got meetings right now. So at about 5 o'clock that evening, I said to John, I've got to go and get these sheep sorted out. So I put my boots on, slipped on a jacket, walked down the farm, and just for a moment, I was completely transported back to my life before forever. To all the challenges, the tough times. I was in farming mode. I was shepherding. And just for a moment, it just really got to me. Those dark days, those challenging days, it really brought a lump to my throat. Anyway, I sorted the sheep out and got them back in with their mums. And as I turned around and looked up, I saw my house. And even now it chokes me up. And I had this huge sense of overwhelm. A huge sense of feeling of gratitude. A sense of just feeling, I don't know, it was just the most incredible thing. There were tears rolling down my eyes. And I leant on the fence and I just looked at that house and I thought, you know what, it's all been worth it. All those hours on the motorway, all of the phone calls and the one-to-ones, all of the people that said no and laughed at me and told me it would never work. It's worth it. And suddenly I wasn't that farmer anymore. I was back to being Jayne, diamond manager, and forever. And there is one family that has given us that chance to live our dreams, to take advantage of a model, a product, and an opportunity that is second to none. And right now, I think he wants to share a message with you. So roll VT, please.
Recently, a group of us were discussing the beginning of Forever, how we got started, and some of the challenges we faced. It was not an easy time. In fact, let's be honest, there's rarely an easy time in business or in life. There always seems to be somebody or something that is a distraction or offering a shortcut by offering a take the work out of becoming successful. But take this from me, success is always on the other side of hard work. There are no shortcuts. There's always one more hill to climb or a bend to navigate. I'm constantly asked, what is the secret to success? I appreciate being asked this question as it shows a willingness and appetite to succeed. I think you already know that there is no secret to success. But there is a formula for success in Forever that I have broken down into 5 parts. You will not be surprised by any of them. In fact, some of you may be disappointed as there is no magic bullet. Number 1 is build a solid, recurring customer base through perfect follow-up and customer service. 2, use the products. And 3, be 4 case credit active and show your groups how to do the same. 4, sponsor every month. And 5, work towards qualifying for every incentive. They're all there to guide you as you build your business. All the pin positions, Eagle Manager, Global Rally, Chairman's Bonus, and all of your local incentives, and they're to challenge you and reward you for working hard. See, I told you there is no secret. Follow these 5 basic principles constantly and consistently, and you will maximize the Forever Marketing Plan. I miss you all, but you're all in great hands. Greg is a great son and a fantastic leader for our company. I'm thrilled at what he is achieving, and I know that you'll be well taken care of. His Double Your Effort initiative is a great idea, and I encourage you to get on board and promote it in your groups. What a difference it will make if we all do a little bit more. Thank you for all your hard work, for having the courage to push on and continue to build your forever legacy. It's hard to comprehend that we are approaching 40 years in business. What a wonderful time to be part of the greatest opportunity in the world. Stick with it. There will be great times and some tough times. But if you hold true to the 5 principles I mentioned, you'll achieve all you ever dreamed of and more. See you soon, and I love you all forever.
Recently, I had had the good fortune of spending some time with Rex in his private office in America, in Phoenix, Arizona, Scottsdale. And, you know, I always feel indebted to Rex, and I always say thank you. And he said, Jayne, the best way to thank me is to share a few more products, share the opportunity with a few more people, and teach them how to do the same. And I said, Rex, everything we have is a result of you. And he said, no, young lady. He said, I gave you the opportunity. I gave you the product. You made something of it. I want to close right now by saying to each and every one of you in this room, somebody has thought enough of you to share with you a product and an opportunity. And I can promise you, the next 40 years will be just as bright as the last 40 years. So step into your brilliance, embrace the opportunity, change your lives, the lives of the people you love and care about, and that ripple effect will in turn change the world. Thank you very much.